Okay, here we are, back into it on 2024. So, just starting the bit of the trading year off with a bit of a recap of sort of what was happening, sort of coming into the end of 23, and obviously we're 1 week in now, 24. I've been away, which is a nice little break. So, trying sort of get away from a couple of little trades here and there, but really just want to sort of see what happens now that we're sort of like getting into a little bit more of the sort of volume, hopefully coming back into the market over the next week or so. We've got US CPI this week, which will obviously be a bit of a pusher. But look, I'll just sort of start off with Aussie here because this was honestly one of my best trades in that if you sort of follow the analysis that I do, you know that I'm not sort of buying at the bottom and holding all the way through, but I'm making the calls, picking the price levels, and I'll just keep hammering and buying dips in the same direction or selling the rips if we were sort of looking for the downside. But this Aussie call through here of this wedge break. I think it was something, if you go back through my Twitter, it was around 63. Obviously, got down sub 63 at the lows there, but I called this negative divergence that we had coming through here, and it just popped off. And very good sort of technical breaks and back tests through the area here. Obviously, this big first break coming back down, retest, big breakout, came right back down, test that breakout level, and then pushed on and sort of moved along right through till the top of the price target up here, which was, as you can see from over here, the measured move from the break of this wedge up into the price target, came up here, and market just completely agreed with me and said, look, that is it. We've done our move. I mean, we're talking from the bottom here about, what's that? Around sort of like, 560 odd points from the lows from around the time of that call. And, that's nearly 10%, which in FX terms is absolutely monster. So yeah, that is certainly that finished the year off very strong for me. So it was a great call, great play. And obviously, as we're seeing now, we're definitely pulling back, and even through this last little move here, this is the whole point of sort of coming back and doing a bit of these weekend analysis videos because really got to sort of see where is it at? Is it still punching through? I mean, obviously we've still got this trend moving up through this direction here, but it's time to sort of maybe draw some lines, see if we can sort of work out what the market may be playing off here. There's nothing sort of ultimately that's sort of real sort of significance here at the moment, but if I just look back at a couple of the other charts, we've got, as I've marked out here, this weekly falling resistance, which we got the breakout here. And you can see that we had this one marked up previously coming through here. We got the break at this point here, and it just exploded, went off, hit our price target, which I just mentioned had we had marked out, and bang, sort of pushed back down. So there's a couple of things that could be happening here. We could be seeing, obviously this is a break of this falling resistance. And if you remember back, I think it was around sort of maybe November or maybe even early December or so, we had that sort of major long-term sort of falling resistance with copper. If I flick across to this quickly, we can see it here as well. This was the weekly falling resistance from copper. Bang, it came out here, hit those sort of swing highs, came back down, boom, and fired on again. I will get to copper in a little while, but this is just showing the sort of the relevance of the fact you've got to take note of the fact that it has broken something that it had been respecting every single time, sort of coming down here. And obviously, it's sort of selling off a little bit now itself, but I'll get to copper in a moment. Still with Aussie, we could just sort of be seeing a bit of a back test of the falling resistance that it did break through. So as you can see, it's quite a strong reaction from this sort of push down here. This is mainly sort of this lower spike here caused by NFP on Friday. So that was a bit of an interesting one. I was having a bit of a browse and sort of watching it. Obviously not too closely, but it I think sort of came in with a fairly strong above expectation print for their jobs report. But that only really lasted a moment or two, then got sold into and then I think it was ISM or something after that as well, and that really sort of hammered it down. So I think the whole sort of consensus of selling off the USD, I don't think is really done with yet. I don't think we're about to sort of see that find buyers miraculously going, yep, cool, let's just start buying US dollar again. I think the sort of the idea that the rate cuts are coming for them is still the major theme. And if that's the major theme, then we've still got some upside potential on Aussie. From a structural sort of point, you've got your 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's 5 waves. So you could be going through, again, I'm not an Elliott wave person, but in theory, you could be seeing a bit of an A, B, C correction. So with that in mind, I wouldn't be surprised if we do get another push up, at least towards testing the previous highs of, that was the um, end of December, so end of 23. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do get that. We could have a little bit of a push down sort of prior to it all, or a little, so probably not so much of a further push down. I think if we take out that wick, then that means we're going to be pushing back down here, and we're going to be looking around this sort of 65, 50 zone. We'll have to sort of be the new one. So a bit of out of practice with drawing these things up here. But this would be your zone. I would say that buyers would be saying, okay, let's give it another shot. If we were to sort of break last week's wick at 66.43. So that's about a 90 to 100 point move down to the downside there. But that's if we break the bottom side of that wick. I think, this has really sort of come up and then come back down. It hasn't been we haven't had the second push up here to determine whether we're going to be moving down or up. So remember, every time you sort of see these pushes up, you want to see, okay, we've got the high, we've got the low. We need another high. Of course, it can come down and then sort of make another high here, but really, things very rarely die in one go. I mean, look at how many this garbage that Aussie took to sort of turn around down the bottom here. But I'm not saying we're going to get something similar to this. But what I would be probably expecting to see is something where it's moved up, we've got the high, we've got the low, and we're either going to get here, which will give us our sort of second high, which is then, okay, lower high, and then push down, and then we could be seeing a change of trend to sort of come down, back down a little bit further. Or this could push through, we could have the double top, or it could push through and we've got the higher high, and if we do, then on we go sort of with the cycle moving up for a high, pull back, support, bang, and this whole sort of procedure plays out again. So I would still say that opportunities to buy Aussie are there. They're obviously not the same as they were through the last quarter of last year, but I don't see on a sort of fundamental level really sort of why they're going to be sort of turning around and all of a sudden buying US dollar here. I've got to bring myself fully back up to speed with everything that's happening. But as I said, we've got the CPI coming in this week for the US, so that's going to be probably the main sort of catalyst driver for it all. If it comes in with a 2 handle, then Aussie's going to rip. If it comes in sort of about even, yeah, again, I've got to get myself more in tune with the markets again, even just after this 2 week sort of break. But to sort of really sort of see what the market's reaction is going to be to that again. And then the other side is if it comes in high, we get a hot print. So 3.3, 3.4 and above, then we're going to see a US dollar cop a bit of buying there, because it's going to change the idea of how soon. Like, it's not going to say, okay, we're not going to have rate cuts. But it changes the idea of how quickly those rate cuts may be coming. And I think that's the general theme and idea at the moment. It's not a question of, when are they? It's not a question of, are they going to have rate cuts? It's a matter of when. And I think the US are probably tipped to having maybe a little bit sooner than a lot of the other economies, the other central banks. So, if they are sort of coming a little bit sooner, that's why we're seeing that sort of continued sell-off with US dollar. You have things like the CPI and all this, where they sort of go, they're the ones that sort of, the second tier bits of news only after the actual rate decision itself, which sort of helps sort of determine that sort of factor of what we might sort of be seeing sort of from the Fed, excuse me, in the short term. But as it is for now, I think this is still, I mean, technically, you got highs, your lows, your highs, your lows are still moving up in this sort of direction. This sell-off as well came from as I mentioned, it was a technical point. It wasn't sort of like a shift of a fundamental level that we just go, oh, okay, bang, turns out, no, they're going to be a shock rate rise for the US, and that sold off. No, it sort of goes like, look, people, just as I have, they've got their measured move, they've drawn it out. It came in, I made that call time frame end of year, and it came in 2 days before the end of the year. As you can see there, 28th of December, 3 days before the end of the year. Well, actually, probably last trading day of the year. No, second last. Anyway, it's late on the Sunday. I've only just got back. But point being is that we are potentially still moving in this upward area. I think if we break that bottom wick, then it's a little bit more caution. But I think for now, we could see a little bit of stuffing around, particularly coming into the sort of start of the week. But certainly, if we take out that 67.47 level, which was the spike high of that Friday, then I think we could be seeing a little bit more of a move back up, testing that sort of 68.50s level. If we get down onto a sort of lower time frame, you can see the reaction of that sort of news event. So this is where they came out with the NFP. You can see it just smashed. This is on a 1 hour time frame. It went down, and this is what I say. These are the ways to trade these news events. Well, the big ones to sort of watch out for is where you see the news drop, you see a fast reaction. If that reaction can be undone, and sooner the better, and bang, that's generally a big catalyst that the market has just absorbed everything, and they're just going to fire it out the other side. And you can see that there, that sort of like it dropped down. What's this? Sort of 45 points, give or take a few. The move to the top side, 61 points. Obviously, sort of chilled out a little bit into the end of the week, but I mean that's the market. The market always just does this little and then dribbles down here. So I think sort of in the short term, I'll be still looking to buy Aussie on these dips here. I think we could be seeing a bit more of a sort of rounded kind of sort of shape coming up. So just bear with me. Coming down like this. Oh, this potential kind of shape here. So I think certainly it could have a little bit of stuffing around down the bottom here, but generally I think I'll be buying dips and looking for at least a sort of retest back up above 68. Ultimately, I think we are destined to go a little bit higher, but of course my views and my calls are generally on price levels, not necessarily about price time. So yeah, we'll just have to sort of see how that plays out. All right, so flip across, and of course the other side of the coin is DXY. So we can have a bit of a look at this and sort of see how it's sort of fared over this period. As you can see, it came right down into this solid area that we had marked out. Price targets taken out here as well. Is this on the weekly day? So yes, this is 28th as well. And as you can see, price targets hit on DXY, price targets hit on Aussie, and markets just gone pack. Popped it off in the other direction. We know that this is a fairly strong area. I mean, you can see it here. If this is on the daily, or on the weekly, we can see that it's been sort of respected quite a number of times. You've got buyers here, you've got buyers all around this area here. Obviously, sort of pushed down here, and this was that little squeeze area where it got down just underneath 100. And we've come back down here again, and bang, there's the test. So it was quite a strong reaction from that low. So I think you can't really, and this is why I say there could be a little bit of stuffing around, because I don't think you can automatically go, okay, yeah, it's just going to be sold straight into. I mean, it's always a possibility. But the size of that reaction, and if you look at this, like, if you just look at it the candles basis, that's, you say, oh, is it engulfing? Well, 5 times. I mean, look at the volume and the size that came into this here. So there's a lot of people that sort of were closing off their things because they hit these price targets. They know that this is the area where the buyers were willing to give it another shot. And this is why buyers did give it another shot there. People did close their shorts. You got that two-pronged effect, which is adding to the buy side, which has then sort of driven it back up there. So look, I don't think it's about to sort of turn around and go, okay, here we go. This is the second, the second run back up over here. But I do think we could see, a little bit of a movement around this area as it sort of tests to sort of see if it wants to go back up past that level. Certainly, if you take out that wick, well, then you're looking back up around the 104 area on a weekly basis, daily wise. Yeah, daily wise, good again around that 104 area. But as you can see, the market sort of really pushed out here. But that is a massive doji for a daily there. That was moving all over the place. So we're moving up into the overboughtish area with a doji and also a bit of a sort of smaller hanging man kind of candle there on the dailies for the Thursday. So with this sort of stuff there, I'd expect Monday, Tuesday to be a little bit of a sort of stuff around here. But unless we get a big shock with the CPI, looking this at it as a structural sort of thing, it's a hanging man, which is a reversal. You got a doji indecision. So really, it's moving. It looks like it's tipping. That'll give it enough time. One more day into the overbought area. We know around this overbought area. Previously you can see that as the market has got up to this level, it has decided to sort of roll over a little bit and sort of come back down. So I think that should line up with a little bit more of a downward push for DXY. So yeah, certainly I think the breakout points for this week for DXY are going to be Friday's candles, candle wicks, because they were just obviously such large moves both sides, fundamental factors driving it, but ultimately it just wasn't enough. Even though it had the strong data for the NFP, it wasn't enough to convince the market, hey, let's keep on buying this. And this is why I say that I don't think the actual underlying message of rate cuts are coming sooner for the Fed than for others is really sort of, what's enough to sort of maintain the buying pressure. I think people are just using it to sell into the rallies. So DXY onto gold. Gold, geez, look at this chart. Wow. And this is one thing to look at. So we had this big pushback up here. It came right down. I mean, that was a huge sell-off coming down here. See if we've got a cleaner on the other chart. Yeah, not really. We have to play around with these ones a little bit, actually. It's interesting to sort of see these levels where it's come up for that second effort here, because this is obviously those previous highs we had, the 280s. So it's really just at the moment, I think you can sort of say that gold's in a little bit of a sort of indecision on a large, obviously with the daily here, but we've had the second push up here. I would have thought with the close up above 71, so we got 77, so not ultimately high, but I think particularly if we can close above sort of 2080, I think that's going to be enough to fill that wick, which should give you a good sort of 65 buck move thereabouts, give or take a few to the top side. I think that's got a lot of upside potential if we can get that sort of close above 2080, and I think I'll probably actually chuck on a little bit more weight just for that trade through that area if we can do that. But at the moment, we can see that sort of like, this has been resistant. There we go. This has been played its part as resistance around this area for support. We're seeing it sort of come back in over here again, around the top over here. Could probably almost sort of get rid of this one through the middle here now. Doesn't really seem to be playing its part so much through here. Just bear with me 2 seconds. Got to clean a few of these charts up and remember why I drew some of these lines. I'm sure on one time frame it makes sense. But yeah, certainly I think sort of this area down here about the sort of 25 it got down to, that was again off that little print. Let's jump on now onto the lower time frame for 2 seconds, get this out of it, and you can see just the reaction as a push down here. This is a 30-minute time frame. It went down and it just went back up and it rocketed out the top side. I mean, that was 2-week, couple of day high, came up and tested that sort of 2060 level there. But yeah, I think sort of we could possibly see a little bit more, as you can see, a little bit of, I mean, this, as I said 2 seconds ago, it only lasted for about, 30, less than 30 minutes. That moved down there, and there was just absolutely nothing with it in terms of buying pressure. Like if this was to be sustained, and it was going to be coming down here, even prior to it, this whole area through here, where it was sort of chopping up and down. Market's always a little bit quiet coming into NFP, but you can see that the RSI was just moving up the whole time. They were absorbing everything prior to it even coming down to this. This looks to me more sort of like a, just a technical response from the fact that they got better than expected NFP, and obviously that's why it flipped around the other side. But price moved down. It never had a hope of sort of holding down there. It didn't even sort of look like it for a second. Maybe it pinched back the tiniest little bit together there, but really wasn't really enough to sort of convince anybody that we were going to see a continued move to the downside there. So again, sold into coming into the end of the week. Looks just like a little breakout box here, sort of forming. So if we drag something around this area here, actually I'll probably give it down to the downside here. It takes care of these little candles as well. So above a close above 47 or a close below 32. First targets will be just to sort of fill those wicks. So if we just do these, just here. There and there. So that gives you sort of 32, $8 move or so to the downside there. Not great, because of course if we get down under that, then we've got a higher time frame support area as well. So if we do happen to get some sort of push down here, I think I'll be buying from the third 2017 area to look to move back up. I do still think we have the consensus on side to sort of move to the top side, but of course it all depends what they want to do with DXY. But yeah, I think if we can sort of get up above this little box, that'll be the early indicator to get on board for a long. First target just to sort of take out this wick at 63, which gives you a good sort of like, 16 buck move to come up to the top side there. If you get above this wick though here, you've got a bit of a falling resistance that seems to be sort of playing out here. So as you can see, it's been respected. Almost got there, not quite. It's been respected a few times. So I think if we can get above here, really you want to get above the 2080, but above 2060, 2080 is the next price target. Above 2080, then you look for the higher time frame, 4 hour or above, to close above the 2080. If we can get something going on there, then we're going to be looking for sort of this kind of action and ultimately looking for a move up to around here, where that would be the sort of that would be the price target area. On a close, 4 hour or above, 2080. I would be wanting to see that. All right, so yeah, I guess in summary with gold, I still think we have some upside, but ultimately it looks to be just chilling now. I mean, we had some very strong moves, obviously, off with the Ukraine stuff, but that's yesterday's news. As far as the market's concerned, anyway, it doesn't really seem to be having too much of an effect at all. If we do get a bit of a push, I mean, it could be almost sort of seeing a little bit of a triangle sort of forming through this area here. Not perfectly to sort of confirm it as of right now, but I would definitely say that, if we can get above that sort of 2060 area, a lot of the market should be watching very closely for that break and close of 2080, which will give us pretty much a sort of clear move towards that 2144. All right, and move on. We got copper. Copper, again, look, it hit the price targets. Where is it? This little clear zone that we had marked up through here. Sold down. And this is what I was saying before, when things like hit the price target initially, came down here. So it did a bit of a playing around. Second effort, boom, pushed up. New high, technically, coming back down again. So again, end of the year, I think, just really saw basically what would be, it's sort of like how I was saying before with the DXY. If you look at this stuff, it always has this coming into the end. If you chuck it down onto 1 hour, for instance, you always have the big move, and then coming into the end of the week, a bit of a retracement. It always happens, then tightens up as the volume dries up, people take profits from their moves, and it just creates things to have a little bit of an upper wick or a bottom wick, depending on what you're trading for the next week. Same thing with copper, and same thing with all instruments on the market. That coming into the end of the year, you have been having these larger candle moves to the top side, and things just had to cool off a little bit. And so that gives you your sort of wicks, and that gives you your breakout areas as well. So in terms of sort of what copper might be doing now, it is a little bit on caution just with how it did close, because if we look at this on a daily, it doesn't look very good. We've got a little bit more room to go just to sort of even this out. And this is what I was saying, though. I think, again, DXY, US dollar, Aussie, these kind of things, I won't be sort of flying into them straight away. But I think we could see a little bit of a push in the directions that we were seeing last week, but then ultimately a reversal back up to move towards these sort of higher levels. The fact that he's come out and closed outside this is on the daily, is a little bit cautious. So I don't think you'd really want to sort of see it much below, 378 kind of level. But certainly for now, I don't think we're about to get a complete melt back down to the bottom over here. Of course, could be wrong. Like anything, just a trade as it sort of plays out. But I think we've still got a little bit more upside. We know that this is a very strong area of resistance, as we've had it marked out, marked out, marked out. And that's bound to find sellers. And as we've seen, it tipped into it, smashed down, pushed right up into it, smack down again. So till we sort of take out those lows of the push down here, the 373, I think it's still got potential to move to the top side. And we'll finally finish off with China. And this is the move down here. And we knew this was going to be a heavy area to crack. It's funny, actually, so it came down to this area, and I was saying, yep, look, that was my prediction. I think sort of when we were up here, I have to go back through the videos, but we were at like 7:30 or something, I think, with one. And I said, look, if we get down here, DXY is going sub 100. Didn't quite get there with the sub 100, but what did we get? We got 160, 100.60 in that sort of absolute extreme low there. So it was pretty close, but that was where's China going here? Yeah, I mean that was, as I said, I'd have to look back as to when I actually made that call with it all, but it was somewhere around these levels. So again, that's a 3% drop off, which is quite substantial. Since it was in a 1% range for like sort of 3 months. But it's still sort of proving to find buyers around this area here. I think this is because I think, quite sure, it's because we knew that this was a weekly support area. Obviously, on the way up, it held for quite a bit. This is weekly now, so geez, wow, this is weekly. It's the great China grind. I mean, they did it for a while up here. Now they've just done this, and they're just going to do something similar by the looks of it down here. And all you can really do with this is just wait, because it's just going to grind sideways and trade the range as it goes up and down. Once we get a sort of close down underneath this sort of 712 area, then we've got that sort of nice sort of neckline sort of thing coming up here. Look, this was the original. I was thinking maybe we get this head and shoulders. Obviously, that requires a bit of a rally effort up here before pushing back down. Ultimately, I think we come down to 690 or definitely sub 7. But that's not going to be happening next week, kind of thing. So I think in the here and now, we just got to wait, see what they do with this, see what they do with broadly on US dollar. But certainly, I'll be looking for looking for the alerts of sort of when we can come down. Actually, I'll set one just here, so we add the alert there, and there we go. Previous weekly low. So yeah, we'll have to sort of see how this sort of plays out. But again, at the moment, it's really just in a bit of a grind, up and down with it all. I wouldn't be surprised if, as I said, we get a little bit of a push up early before sort of having a push back down towards this sort of 712 area. All right, cool, and that's about it. So that's the first weekly sort of wrap for the year. Geez, it is a little bit late. So yeah, just sort of going to get into it. I'll be doing the daily videos, the daily updates, and breakdown of all the sort of risk assets and that, and a couple of the metals again this year. And yeah, see how it all goes. That's about it from me.